everything, Steve, begins with a thought. And your thoughts drive your feelings drive your actions drive your results. So I always ask my client, what results do you want to produce? And based on you identifying the results that you want to produce, we work backwards so that your thought pattern can be in alignment with the results that you want to produce. Does that make sense?
Yep. So, Dr. Joy, with your experience, and you know, we've talked about and we've touched some of these subjects in the past, but again, not in the era of Corona. And we always make the joke, not that Corona, because that Corona is not, you know, we've always had that, but this Corona. In your view, how do you feel that that mental health with being isolated, being stuck at home, maybe not even being able to get the treatment of going and speaking with someone, having a therapist to go see and dealing and helping with these things. And I know there's telehealth. I've seen also, you know, telehealth has boomed. What are your thoughts on mental health and where we are today?
Well, I'm glad you asked me that question, because the whole concept of mental health has been brewing like a batch of broth or tea now for about the last 3 or 4 years, where we've seen a deterioration. As a therapist, I've seen deterioration in people's ability to cope, particularly with stress. Our systems have been stressed, both internally and externally. And COVID was really the icing on the cake. Before, we had our jobs to go to, we had our spas to go to, we had our gyms to go to, our parks, or beaches. Those were things that allowed us to relieve our stress a little bit. With COVID, for the past 2 months, and probably even longer than that, we have been a country on house arrest. And because we're not used to being on house arrest. So what do I mean by that? It means that we could not leave our homes. And for many of us, we were forced to deal with situations that we never had to deal with before. For example, spouses that we had forgotten, not forgotten in a bad sense, but we didn't know them. Now being together every single day, it's like, oh, okay. And then the choice came up as to whether or not we want to continue to deal with that or not. Divorces are up. Abuse, physical abuse, emotional abuse is up, because the system has been stressed. Our internal system has been stressed. Our kids, many parents will tell you, I didn't even know my child was like that. My God, where have I been? So it's caused all of us to do a reevaluation of self on several different levels. Now, if you had a predisposition to depression, a predisposition to bipolarism, a predisposition to even schizophrenia, or any of the mental illness diagnoses that you've never been diagnosed with before, nor should you have been, but you're seeing behaviors come out that mirror that, your mental health is seriously in jeopardy, because your ability to cope with the stressors, your brain is trying to cope with the stressors of life, not just of life, but of a new life, because you don't have your escape hatches anymore. And it's the coping mechanisms that we are now having to face. And to be honest with ourselves, I can't handle this. I really, really can't handle this anymore. This is uncomfortable, which brings up a whole other point for human beings, particularly here in America. We do not like to be uncomfortable.
Nope.
We have been told that with the advertising and all of this, that you don't have to be uncomfortable. But guess what? We are in the era of being uncomfortable. And in my work, what I help people to do is to deal with being uncomfortable and getting past that and getting into a comfortable zone. So I move people from being uncomfortable to comfortable. And when I say comfortable, I don't mean in a way that they think. It's a comfortability with self.
Mm-hmm.
It all starts with you first. Everything starts with you. And the way how the brain works, there's a particular pathway that goes on in terms of when things come in through your eye gate, your ear gate, your senses. There's a part of your brain called the amygdala, and it is designed to alert you to either be very fearful, to run away, to appease, which is what we call the yes dear syndrome. But inside you're becoming angry and angry and angrier because the situation that you're faced with, you in your mind, you say it shouldn't be this way.
Right.
And then the last one is freeze, where you just don't know what to do, so you completely shut down. Any one of those four choices that the amygdala gives you has an impact on the neural pathways of the brain. And then, based on that impact, you take the actions. So let's go a little bit deeper. There's an acronym that my friend Jason taught me. It's called TFAR. T stands for thoughts, F stands for feelings, A stands for actions, and R stands for results. Everything, Steve, begins with a thought. And your thoughts drive your feelings drive your actions drive your results. So I always ask my client, what results do you want to produce? And based on you identifying the results that you want to produce, we work backwards so that your thought pattern can be in alignment with the results that you want to produce. Does that make sense?
Yep. So you can have that thought, but still be afraid of carrying it out, still have that fear, right? Mm-hmm. So a thought is never going to be realized. You're never going to get to, the F and the A and the R and the results ultimately, unless you get over that fear. Mm-hmm. And, it ties into, what else we wanted to touch on real quick, but just going back to the uncomfortableness, the pastor at our church, he has, this stuck with me from a while back. He always says you have to be comfortably uncomfortable. Mm-hmm. Right? So you have to be comfortable with making yourself uncomfortable, because that's the only way that you're going to move forward. If you get stuck in being comfortably comfortable, you're never going to get anywhere. You're never going to, achieve and again, make that thought, lead to anything. So it's becoming comfortable with being uncomfortable. So again, it goes back to being fearful. And I know we wanted to get into that, with the mental health and just, where we are right now. So what would you say to someone that has that thought, but is afraid of taking that next step? What have you done in the past with that?
You have to look at a bigger picture. For example, I'm going to use myself as an example, right? Doing this business, there are days when I get up and the Lord is giving me instructions what to do. But in my humanity, I'm afraid to maybe do a podcast. Why? I don't want to be judged. Now, that's very real for me. But the reality is, the bigger thing for me is to why am I actually doing the podcast? And that is to impact the lives of people. I hold on to that. It's the bigger picture I hold on to. If someone is stuck in a relationship or a job that is not no longer working for them, you have to look at why am I staying here?
Yeah.
Like really? Why am I staying? What? If I wasn't doing this, if I wasn't in this situation, where would I be? What do I want for myself? I want to be free. Okay, great. You want to be free. Free to do what? And once you get free, then what? Because there's so many people I work with that get free, and because they haven't created something that's bigger, guess what? They go right back to the same
Yeah.
situation.
Yeah.
And that's part of going back to the comfortability. Look, this shoe is pinching my foot, but at least I know the shoe. And we're saying, but you can have a great pair of comfortable shoes. You can have many comfortable shoes. Yes, I know that, but I know what I got.
Yeah.
I'm afraid, even though I know it's going to be good for me. Remember when you were a kid, your mom said, take, in Barbados, it was castor oil, the most horrible tasting thing on the planet. I'm telling you. But castor oil, in the long run, kept me from having colds and being sick. You know, there are benefits. So, as we say in the islands, learn to suck the salt so you can get the sugar at the end.
There you go. There you go. And that's the thing. I think we've talked about this before. Maybe not on the podcast, but it's we want that sugar, but we don't want to go through what we have to go through to get to it. And then when we don't get the sugar, we tend to blame situations, others, etc. And it's that perpetual cycle of I didn't do anything about it, but it wasn't my fault, right?
Absolutely. And we're great at victimhood.
Oh yeah.
Oh my gosh, we can play that violin like an orchestra.
Yep.
However, I want to go back to the being stuck and the comfortability. People sometimes get very comfortable in being stuck. Why? Because they can talk about being stuck over and over
It's
and
that victimhood you mentioned.
over again, right? Are you committed to getting unstuck? Yeah. But let me tell you what happened to me. Okay, I've heard that like 5 times now, 10 times. When are you going to move forward? And what I realized about people is that not everybody wants to get unstuck, even if they say it out of their mouths.
Yep.
Commitment and the journey of getting unstuck is probably what they're fearful of, because you're going to have to deal with some pain. You're going to have to deal with some realities. You're going to have to deal with some shame and some guilt. But guess what? Once you've dealt with all of that, oh my gosh, there is such joy on the other side. You are freaking free. So the question is, how bad do you want it?
Mm-hmm.
How bad do you want to get unstuck? Is the pain of being stuck worth it? And the brain can get used to pain
Oh yeah.
and make it into pleasure. That's a very tricky area, so that pain now shifts to something that you actually enjoy. And how do you do that? And it's crazy. This is crazy behavior, right? But you are enjoying your pain because you keep talking about it over and over and over again. So you must be getting something out of it.
It's that victimhood mentality.
Exactly. But we are called to be victors.
Yeah.
We are not called to be victims.
You
So
know,
the question, go ahead.
no, I was going to say, with that, it's what I've always seen is um, people tend to like to talk about themselves, and they'll sell you on their dream, and they'll tell you what they want, but then will tell you why they can't have it or what's getting in their way, and they know exactly what's getting in their way. They know exactly what they need to do to move past it. But once they get past it, what are they going to tell you about? They can't play that victim anymore. It's gone. They're no longer a victim. So, and I've seen it so many times where it's you know it's that fear of getting over it, because then I'm no longer the victim, and I enjoy playing the victim.
Exactly. But we all play roles, right? Like Shakespeare said, right? This is a stage.
Hmm.
We're all players in it. Isn't it great to play the victor role?
Yeah.
Here is the key though. You can't sometimes, and I've noticed this in my practice, once you become a victor, other victims can't relate to you.
Right.
And you have to change your environment and change the people you hang out with.
Hmm.
So you only hang out with victors because that's all they're talking about.
It's I think it came up in our last conversation with Gail about raising up leaders in the workplace.
Mm-hmm.
And it's that mentality of, and I hadn't realized it until I had that conversation with her, that um so I've seen it, but what I hadn't realized was that a lot of companies fail to prep the people that they're putting into management. They fail to prep them for that management, and I had never looked at it that way. But to speaking to this point, it's you're no longer a peer. Now you've been raised up. You're above it. And like I said, I've seen it, but I had never looked at it from that perspective, and I've experienced it. Um, so you're now the responsibility is there. That person wanted the title, but didn't realize the responsibility that came with it. So that person now has the title, but still wants to be in their previous role, because they don't want to let go of those friendships, and they don't want to let go of that being relatable to them, and vice versa. Everybody's now looking at that person like, well, you're in that position, you owe me something. Now that you're there,
Mm-hmm.
you're supposed to look out for me, the victim. And it doesn't work that way. It
No, it
just
doesn't.
you know um
And this is to every person who is playing the victim. I'm going to speak very directly to you. You are 100% responsible for you.
yeah.
I said again, you are 100% responsible for you. The words that come out of your mouth, the thoughts that come into your head, the actions that you take, and the results that you produce, you're 100% responsible for all of it.
Yes.
Nobody can make you do anything that you don't want to do. Nobody can make you mad. People do whatever they do, and then you choose to get upset.
Hmm.
You could choose something else, but you choose to get upset. And there's a my phrase is, I don't want to, you can't make me.
Yep. Yeah.
And people get entrenched and dug in like that. And then once you say, because listen, thoughts and words are powerful. Once you have that internal conversation with yourself, you become that.
Yeah. I was that. Yeah.
And your brain doesn't have an opportunity then to recalculate and reorganize itself to match the new you for where you say you want to go.
Yeah.
I just love the brain. I'm passionate about neuropsychology. And I can tell you, you can shift who you are and then rewire your brain by what you think and the words that come out of your mouth.
Yeah.
But it stems from a profound internal commitment to have you be the best person you can be. And you have got to have that profound internal commitment. Now, having said that, there are people in society who, because of the neurotransmitters in their brain, the way the brain is wired, are genuinely may not be capable of having that, even if they have the profound commitment, because of certain mental illnesses, may not be able to achieve that. But that doesn't mean they can't achieve something else. And it's learning to accept you, love you for who you are and who you're not. And to recognize that some people may never get there.
Hmm.
But that doesn't mean that you can't get there. We are our own worst enemy.
Yeah, it goes back to being afraid to be uncomfortable.
Yes.
You got comfortable being stuck, and even though you see things falling apart around you, it's your brain is telling you that it's going to be more burdensome to move forward than to continue to see the things falling apart around you.
Not only that, your brain is telling you they're falling apart, but it's okay.
Exactly.
It's okay until they completely disintegrate. And then you realize, wow, how did I get here?
It's so refreshing to have these conversations with you, because I'm telling you, I was there.
Mhm.
I was there at one point. Um, and it wasn't until exactly what you just said, I looked around and I said, "How did I get here? How did I acknowledge everything? How did I recognize everything? Again, how did I tell my wife flat out, no matter what's going on around me, I'm not going to move or shift until I say I'm going to? How, with all that, I still looked around and I said, how'd I get here?" And it wasn't until then that I said, like, no, again, taking action. I this is not where I am supposed to end up. I'm not going to let it be where I'm going to end up, and I haven't looked back since.
I love that you said that, because just saying this is not where I want to end up, it's not just physically,
Hmm.
it's also emotionally. I don't deserve to be angry all the time. I don't deserve to be frustrated all the time. I do not have to put up with what I'm putting up with.
Yeah.
I really don't. I do it because I'm afraid of whatever. I won't have enough money. I can't leave. What about the kids? Um, I, the false hope that things will get better, which if I just pray it through, and that might be true. But even with the prayers, there is something called action.
Hmm.
Faith without works is dead. And I find a lot of believers, they will be praying and they have the faith, but they are completely unwilling to do the work on themselves. Like where you were.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I had the prayer. I had the prayer. Even if not, within me myself at that time, I had the faith. I had the support. I just was missing the action, and I knew it, and I was okay with it. And that's what's crazy, because Joy, if if you would have known me from back then too, like, I've had some pretty great positions in organizations and companies, and made a lot of money, and all that. Um, what we tell ourselves is going to make us happy, and what we tell ourselves is going to fulfill us. And I was never fulfilled, and I was never happy. Um, and again, when I got stuck and when I was going through that, um, I knew that going back to that also wasn't going to lead me to be happy, but I didn't know where I wanted to go, what I wanted to do, and I was afraid to have those thoughts of what I wanted because, like you said earlier, I was afraid that I was going to try it, dip my toe, it wasn't going to go well, and I was going to end up right back where I was. So the fear of being uncomfortable, the fear of taking that step kept me stuck
Mm,
because I didn't want to go back, but I also was afraid to go forward.
mm. And what I'm hearing you say too, underneath all that was your fear of failure.
Yeah, yeah.
Didn't want to take the step and fail. Well,
But
you're not alone.
and the crazy part about that, again, with the brain, just real quick, it was that fear of failure. But meanwhile, I was actively failing.
Ooh, that's good.
So I was afraid of what I was currently doing,
Mm,
and again, it's the brain. The brain, I recognized things weren't going well, and I still was afraid of what might not go well while I was sinking in that. So
well, that's quite a revelation, Steve, and thank you for sharing that
of
because
course,
I'm clear that you are not alone in that thought pattern.
I'm
People
sorry.
don't realize even if you take the step and things don't go well, it is part of you getting out of what we call Lodabar.
Hmm.
That journey of taking the first step, things not going well, it's like, okay, great, at least I took the step. Now let me look and see what didn't go well so I can take the next step and the next step. It's like a child learning how to walk.
Yeah, but we're afraid of learning how to walk again because we don't want
Mm,
somebody to know that we forgot how to. It's pride at the end of the day too. Um,
absolutely.
what I was going to say real quick was the I lost my train of thought there. Um, but yeah, it's pride gets in the way. It's fear. But at the end of the day, it's so that yeah, we may not wake up every day wanting to do what we have on our hearts to do, and what we know we should be doing. We don't want to sometimes get on here and do the podcast. We have so many other things going on. Um, but I truly believe that with your experience and me sharing what I just shared, it's going to resonate with someone because again, I'm not alone. I'm not the only one that's felt that way. I'm not the only one that's sat there and recognized and known what to do but has been afraid to do it. So if someone out there is listening and is going through that and can see us and us having this conversation and going back to the first podcast that we recorded, and you spoke about your resiliency and what you've had to overcome, and then again me sharing some of the stuff that I've shared with you. It's our hope is that somebody hears that and is able to say to themselves, that's exactly what I'm going through, and I can get through this. I can, because again, it's the fear of failure, but it's also the fear of doing it alone. So if you hear somebody that's been through exactly what you're going through, or something like what you're going through, you're not alone. And I think a lot of us need to realize that we're not alone in this journey. So
I love that you brought that up because now that we're in isolation, we feel even more alone
yeah,
because we don't have the camaraderie of, even though we talk on the phone or we can call her Betsy on the phone, it's not the same.
it's not.
And then can you talk really with prying eyes around you? Where can you go to have a conversation of like, girl,
Hmm.
where can you go to have that?
Yeah.
To go outside, you have to have a mask on. It's things have changed, and I think one of the things that I'm grateful that God has given me the skill set is to help people through change, internal and external change. It's such a joy to be able to do that and to see the results on the other end. And every choice you make, again, you're responsible for the results. So choose well. And in this era of mental health deterioration because of isolation, because of whatever else, there may be pressure, stress. I've heard people working from home, and I don't know if this is going on with your wife. I heard the long hours that she's working. And many of the people who I coach who have been working from home, I'm working harder than when I was at the office.
Yep.
I try to get up and I'm away from my computer for 15 minutes. I get a call. Where are you? What's happening?
The other thing is, as much as we complain about traffic, it's that ability to disconnect.
Mm-hmm.
You leave the office, you leave that stress, and you have 30-minute drive home. So by the time you get home, you've listened to your music, you've decompressed, and it's that break between home and work. I had a boss once that he asked that everybody arrive 15 minutes before their shift, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you know how we are. Oh, I already have to be there at 9 o'clock, and you're asking me to be there at 8:45. Oh, blah 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 blah. But he didn't want you to start working until 9 o'clock, even though you clocked in at 8:45, because he wanted you to leave. And again, whatever traffic you were in that drive, he wanted you to at least have 15 minutes before you dove into your work to give yourself 15 minutes. Because if you're stressed, you're walking in with that energy and you walk in at 9:05, there's already work waiting for you. You're going to release on that work. So, and I loved the idea. I was fascinated by it because I've always thought in that sense of again, we're not machines. We're not robots.
No. But yet we are in the corporate world, particularly, we are expected to be. So maybe instead of, since you start, you hand over at 4:30, right? Maybe hand over at 4:45
Mm-hmm.
and give that 15-minute window.
Yeah, we've tried to
strategy.
We've tried to do it together because also, I've been dealing with my son all day, and then I have to dive into my work. So what we've been trying to do is, go for a walk.
Yeah.
Just get out of the house.
Yes. Yeah.
Talk to
Let go, run a little bit.
Right. How was your day? Yeah. Even though we're in the house together all day, how was your day? Yeah. And
you have to quieten the brain before you kick it into another activity you want to do. And this, because Corona doesn't seem to be going anywhere. It keeps coming back over and over and over again. But what you can do as a listener is to make sure that you put your fail-safes in to remain healthy. If you're in an abusive relationship as a result of this, and when I say abusive, I mean abusive at home or at work, you want to be able to recognize that and then get some help for yourself. Do not let that continue. You don't have to be the strong, silent type taking it on your shoulders. I can do it. I am woman here before, Honey, no. It's more like have a Calgon bath and chill. But you gotta give yourself permission to do that. And remember, give yourself permission to be happy. Choose joy.